get a reminder, too, about just what a global event this is, bells are ringing at churches all around the world. My 17-year-old son is texting me, who is the Pope? So we should talk about that. Who could be the next Pope? People want to know. What's happening right now?
Well, I think the fact that the cardinals, 133 of them, the largest number in history, 2,000 years, have rallied around one figure after 4 votes is very significant. I really do believe it's one of those leading contenders, and dare I say it could well be the past Secretary of State. Obviously, we were hearing about other cardinals, Cardinal Luis Tagle from the Philippines. We were hearing about Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, the president of the Bishops' Conference. We were hearing about Cardinal Peter Erdo, more to the right. I rather suspect it is one of those leading candidates.
Well, I think also with 133, if they needed to come and converge on one candidate, it might be the one that they thought had the most experience and was most known to them, which may be the Secretary of State.
There's a good possibility of that. I mean, I think what is clear is that in a group of cardinal electors, again, 133, largest number in history, where all of these cardinals would say they did not know one another particularly well, to come to a consensus this quickly would suggest they did pick somebody who was a relatively known quantity, who, even if they didn't know him personally, felt that he had played enough of an institutional public role that they had a sense of who the man was.
People are chanting down there in the square. Can't make out exactly what they're saying, but we're looking as members of the Italian military have joined in the march, the procession into St. Peter's Square. People are still trying to make their way in and flood the square and enjoy the moment. It has been about a half hour since we saw the white smoke, so which leads us to wonder what exactly is going on inside there. What are they doing? What might they be doing right now?
Well, you know, Maurice, I was thinking about that because I think you should put yourself in the feet of the Pope. There's
Cardinal
O'Malley down there with
Archbishop of Boston.
Franciscan brothers. They may well be hoping to see a Franciscan come to the loggia. That other picture is the central balcony of St. Peter's, where the Pope will step out and where we will hear the Habemus Papam.
Archbishop Gallagher, who is the #2 to the Secretary of State as well. So these were non-voting cardinals and church officials who come out as well.
Also very interested to know. They don't know either. But, you know,
his job sort of depends on the answer to this question.
But to answer Maurice's question, one thing that the new Holy Father will do, right, is go pray by himself in the Pauline Chapel,
and there is an amazing painting of Michelangelo, the last painting of his, when he was 70 years old in that chapel. It's stark. It's almost severe. St. Peter on his back on a cross. And he stares at the new Pope, and the new Pope stares at him. And St. Peter is saying to the new Pope, are you willing to lay down your life as I laid my life for the sheep?
I was thinking exactly that we have all this fanfare out here, but the man who has just been elected Pope, Pope Benedict said when he heard his name, he felt like he was being led to the guillotine. It is a massive responsibility, and you can only imagine the trepidation that he has before he comes out on that balcony.
As they feel the weight of the job, right? When we saw it on the cardinals' faces as they entered the conclave, the gravity, the solemnity, you could feel it as they went in there. Now just imagine that one of them is coming out with this massive job.
Yes,
well, you know,
coming out after Francis, too.
Yeah.
So
those are some awfully big shoes to fill, not to mention the shoes of the fishermen, referring to St. Peter. But, you know, if you think about what popular expectations of a pope are, we expect a pope to be an intellectual giant. We want him to be a global statesman playing on the global stage. We want him to be a Fortune 500 CEA. We want him to be a media rock star. And, by the way, we want him to be a living saint. Now, any one of these things is difficult to do well. You roll them all up together, it is a prescription for, as you said, a bone-crushing burden. And that's why the enormity of this moment, when it descends upon anyone who is now stepping into this role. Just think about the emotion that you must be feeling. And I think that's why that moment of prayer in the Pauline Chapel is so important, because it is a reminder, yes, I have assumed this enormous burden, but ultimately, I'm not in this alone. I have St. Peter to intercede for me, and I ultimately have God to rely on. You know, we talked earlier about Pope John the 23rd. One of the things that Pope John famously said is that I could sleep at night knowing that ultimately God is in charge of the church, not me.
Yeah, absolutely. And just looking at this, that's the reason I believe that this enormous crowd, and people are literally running through the streets of Rome now to come to this piazza, get behind this new pope. I'm thinking of other elections, political elections. There's joy, but there's also an enormous amount of sadness.
Yes.
There's an enormous amount of bitterness. That's not happening here.
And talking about running into, let's go down now to Tony DeCopel, who is in St. Peter's Square, who is running into people in St. Peter's Square that he has met in the past couple days while doing reporting. Tony?
It's an amazing thing. I've got two quick notes, one on connections and the other on change. When it comes to connections, we're in a crowd of thousands, tens of thousands. And over the last 2 days, we've talked to dozens of people. In the last few moments, we have run into not one, not two, but 3 different people from our journey. One in particular, John Swerk from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, as I recall, is here for a conference of tattoo artists. He ran into us, asked if we thought he should go here. He said he changed his plans, left the conference, turned around to be here. He thanked us for that reminder and that reconnection to his faith. That was an amazing moment. And then when it comes to change, wandering around here the last few days, you see the travel on people's faces, the long journeys, the expensive flights, the $900 Airbnbs because everybody jacked up the price, the hot sun, the tough weather, the colder night last night. In an instant, when that smoke came out, all of that fell away. The burden of the journey, the burden of the travel lifted. And that also feels like what contributes to the sense of elation, almost a floating feeling here in the crowd of thousands.
Thank you, Tony. And Monsignor, as I'm watching this, I can't help but think what it's like to be a priest as you are, and a priest as this next pope will be, because after all, you're a man. You're a human. But there are expectations placed upon you that are greater than anything else anybody else has to deal with. I know that's what you signed up for, and I know that's what this cardinal who's about to be elevated has signed up for, but can you give us a peek inside what that's like?
Yeah, you're almost giving me the shivers, because effectively the new Holy Father is our boss. But even before being a boss, he is our father. So we do look to the Holy Father for direction in our priesthood. We look for encouragement. We look for those qualities that we've seen in John Paul II, in Benedict, and in Francis. John Paul II, who opened people's hearts. Benedict, who filled people's hearts with good doctrine. And Francis, that compassion, that mercy. It's going to be fascinating. This is a magical moment for us as priests to know what gift does this newly Holy Father bring to the world. And he's going to be helped, just to piggyback on what John and Delia said, he's going to be helped above all by the grace of the Holy Spirit.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Seth Doan is down there with the crowd and talking to people. Seth?
That's right. Ever less space to speak with people. But I'm here with Jude Wastel from Massachusetts. Describe this moment, this feeling when you looked up and saw white smoke.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely crazy. I was just down the square a little bit, and we started running up as soon as we heard that there was white smoke and everyone was cheering. So just a lot of anticipation, and you can feel the excitement. It's kind of muddled right now because he's not out, obviously, but it's a lot of anticipation.
What do you want to see? You're Catholic, you said. Mm-hmm. Who do you want to be Pope? What do you want to see?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done my research as much as I should have on the upcoming cardinals. cardinals and who's looking like a prime candidate, kind of. But I'm really blessed to be here for this experience, and I think every Catholic here and everyone is just thankful for a new pope so soon. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that was one of the big things here. Thank you very much, Jude. Was showing unity, having a pope selected within a couple of days. We were talking just yesterday, John Allen's prediction that it would come by the end of the week. The Catholic Church really wanted to show unity behind a figure who could lead it, and people here in the crowd were certainly hoping to see the same. They said, we'll wait as long as it takes, but there's a lot of joy that it's happened so quickly. Back to you.
All right, Seth Doan, thanks so much. And, you know, shout out to John Allen, Delia Gallagher, and Monsignor Figueredo. Each of them was predicting this would happen today by about this time. So that's pretty impressive.
Well, when you're on your third conclave, you kind of get it.
Yeah, in all fairness, we are conditioned to expect this because it happened in 2005, happened in 2013, and now it has happened again.
But I was also just thinking, how strange is it that we've done Francis papacy is done.
Right.
Yeah. And that's odd. Yeah. You know, we're here every day with the popes and listening to them and living the papacy so fully.
And I think the interview that Seth just did with the young man from Massachusetts is instructive, because while all of us, including myself, have a bunch of note cards here and have studied all of the cardinals or the popefuls, as we call them, for most Catholics, they've not been looking at all the biographical details. And that's why this moment that we are approaching in just minutes, when we will learn who the new pope is important, because also he can set a new tone. He can create new impressions. He can garner new followers of the Catholic Church if he comes across in a way that is likable.
And I think a lot of people like to see what country he's from. You know, that's really where they get excited to understand. You know, if what we see so many flags down there, and I think people around the world, that's really the first thing they think of.
Well,
right?
Pope Francis was the first in so many ways. The first Francis of all of the 267 popes. The first from the Americas. The first Jesuit. Will this be a groundbreaking Holy Father? Will he be the first from Africa, the first from Asia, or will we return to an Italian pope?
And that is really true. You know, the last pope who came out, Francis, he was a surprise. He was a surprise. We could be surprised again this evening. But something to go back on, we're pledging allegiance not to the man, whether it's Parolin or Taggart, whoever it is, we're pledging allegiance to the successor of Peter. Yeah. That's why he takes on a new name, by the way, because he changes character. As in baptism, we take on a name, in a religious profession, we take on a new name. He's taking on a new name because he's walking into a new mission as the successor of Peter.
It's a whole other level. I think what we were touching on here a second ago is that this is a moment for humanity, for the people. And I'm wondering, Monsignor, as you look at these people's faces, you see them right there. What do you see? What do you see in those faces?
I really see joy and hope. That was the title of a document of the Second Vatican Council, Gaudium et Spes. There is great joy that we will have a new pope. That's really important, by the way, because the papacy is a monarchy, and the pope is essential for the church to run, for this church to run. So that is key, that we have that joy that this pope has been elected, but also great hope now. Hope of, in this Jubilee year of hope, that this new Holy Father is going to give us direction to go forward.
There is a lot of hope among Romans who are running through the streets that they make it here in time.
Beginning with that kind of hope.
That's right, and Chris Livesay has more on that. Chris?
That's right, Nora. Of course, we don't know who the next pope is going to be, but if locals have anything to say about it, it'll be the hometown hero, Cardinal Zuppi. We will see fireworks go off around the city. That's what they told me when I went to the bar or the cafe that he would go to every morning for his croissant and his coffee. The people playing cards there, we said, we want Don Matteo or Father Matteo. That's what he was known as when he was the parish priest in Santa Maria in Trastevere, a picturesque neighborhood not too far from here. It has been 3 papacies since there's been an Italian Pope. That was after centuries of an Italian monopoly. So for Italians, especially Romans, they're saying enough is enough already. The time has come to have an Italian Pope. Especially, remember, it's not just the Pope of the entire 1.4 billion Catholic Church members, but it's also the Bishop of Rome. So from their perspective, it's time for Don Matteo. Back to you.
All right, the Bishop of Rome. Chris Lipsey, thank you so much.